Welcome to your next step up the self-publishing mountain.
I'm Matilda Swift, author of quintessentially British cozy mysteries.
And I'm Samantha Cummings, author of young adult books about magic, myths and monsters.
I've written the books,
Changed their covers,
tweaked their blurbs,
tried tools from a dozen ads courses.
and I'm still not seeing success.
Now, we're working together to plot and plan our way from barely making ends meet to pulling in a living wage.
Join us on our journey where we'll be mastering the pen to snag that paycheck. Hello and welcome to Pen to Paycheck Authors Podcast. I'm Matilda Swift, here with my co-host Sam Cummings, and we're here to write our way to financial success. We're two indie authors with over a dozen books between us, and still a long way to go towards the quit the day job dream. If that sounds familiar, listen along for our Mastery Through Missteps journey. Each week we cover a topic to help along the way. This week's topic is going to be X meets Y marketing. But before that, let's do our wins and whinges of the week. Sam, what have you got?
My win, I'll start with the win. I do have a whinge. My win is that I got my proof. It's not a proof, but my formatter sent me back the formatted book that I'm releasing this month, which is Lost Girl, the third installment of my Fantasy Girl series. So I've got the PDF back, which has been formatted, and I am 95% through doing a final check. So I'm going to finish that later tonight. So that is my win of the week, because the rest of my week was nothing. So that's kind of my whinge. First whinge is I have a headache today because I've been staring at my screen forever. But also I just had a week where I didn't really get anything done. I got mental stuff done. I thought a lot, but I didn't equate to anything. It is stuff.
I think is
feel
stuff,
like, yeah, I do feel like I've kind of figured out some stuff that I just need to put into action. So, but it's still a whinge because
I have just spent months doing thinking stuff, and you've been insistent on like that is stuff. So we have to be thinking stuff is stuff. Let's get this on a t-shirt. Okay.
Yeah, thinking stuff is
we need
stuff.
to rephrase it some way better than that, but
yeah,
thinking is stuff.
Yeah, thinking is stuff. So I feel like a little bit like I wasted my week, but I also had a great week. And I also celebrated my anniversary with my boyfriend this week.
Yay!
And I don't really want to say how long, but I will. This is how old I am. 15 years we have been together.
Oh my goodness, you were a child bride.
I know, that's what I said. I told someone, they were like, oh wow. And I was like, I know, I'm a child bride. He's a pervert. How dare he?
But you were both really reasonable adults. He is a mythical creature, so he could be of any age.
Creature. Yes,
yeah.
He is.
No one has ever seen him in the real world.
No, we like to pretend that he doesn't really exist. It is this
I cannot
post of
verify
Nicolas
that he
Cage.
does exist.
No. Yes, but he has been romancing me for 15 years. So I guess that's a win as well.
Yeah. That is lovely. So you've had a week of focusing on yourself, and you will say before we recorded that you've been on the allotment this week. Something
I have.
Cooking. Yeah, I think you've been having a thinking week.
Yes, maybe I shouldn't have whinged about it. Apologies. How about
Extra
you?
win.
Yeah.
I have only got one gigantic win this week, which I'm so excited about. I got selected for a Book Club feature deal. Yay! Which feels so crazy to like tell other people outside of the publishing world about, because it's like I got selected to pay $1,000.
Yeah. I was explaining it to Brian, my mythical boyfriend, and like trying to explain it to him like why it was so exciting, and he was like, oh yeah, okay. And I was like, can't translate it.
I tried to explain it to someone today, and I just had to really like give them a lot of foregrounding of like, okay, look at this website, look at the other people, like this newsletter, look at the people who are on here. Let me talk about like how the whole concept of sales works in indie marketing and like what I'm hoping for, and then I will tell you the price. But I do think unbelievable. Like if manifesting were a thing, I have manifested this. I think I might become a manifestor.
You also, you definitely are a manifestor. You like to say that you're not, but you definitely are. But you also do put in the work, because you have been like working towards it and submitting, and mentally you were like giving yourself or allowing yourself the opportunity to do it. Like you had the money to spend, so you weren't like hesitant. You just were like going for it. So You have manifested by hard working.
Yeah. And I think I have been applying for it for a long time. I have been applying, and I'm not been applying as regularly as I would like. It's in my planner to do it every week, but some weeks it just moves along day by day and doesn't get done. And I can't remember why, but I decided to do it a few days ago. I was like, I'm going to do it this week. I'm going to get on it. And I just had I was like, I've got 5 minutes. Let me just take another thing off my to-do list, because I'm having a real to-do list ticking off week. So I was like, I'll do this quick one, put it through. And this is how I know I manifested by accident, is that when I clicked it, I almost thought, oh, I'll be a bit annoyed if I get this one, because it's on a book that hasn't already got many reviews. I picked the 99-cent deal rather than free, so I feel less confident I'm going to make the money back, because I'm not sure people will buy it. It's like, oh, you know what? I bet this is the one they pick. And it was. So I think it's going to be great. And it is exactly the right time for me. So this series has there's a box set for the first 3 books in my main series. There are 3 more books following that. So it gives me a chance to kind of think about, what do I most want to get out of this? Because I'd have to sell a good number of copies of just the box set to make back the money. But I have got 3 other books to follow on with. And I need, or I think I really want, a big arc team for my next series, which is coming in 6 months. So I've got a new series watching in 6 months. If I want a big arc team, what I could do is use this box set and splashy page in between each book. Here's an extract from the next series. Do you want to join the arc team? Or here's the X meets Y for the next series, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yes.
Join the arc team here. So fantastic opportunity. And I think I'm going to try and make as much of it as I can. So it's not it's coming at the right time. It's really validating the effort I'm putting in this year, and just the mental effort and the commitment to myself. And it's making me sort of recommit, and it's really feeding into a lot of more the mindset things and just the practicality. I think even if I got a BookBub a year ago, I would have felt scared about spending this much money without any concept of do I really think I'll sell enough books, and do I really think I'll be able to build on it? But actually I was thinking, annoyingly, it's come right after my Kindle re-update, so I can't do a long lead up in terms of building up promo bookings. I've booked 2 on the day before, but that's pretty much what I can fit in. I'm going to mail my newsletter list the day before that, if I can get the deal to go through before then. But I'm also going to start running Facebook ads, because it's in KU. I could run Facebook ads knowing that they won't necessarily, make the money back, but they will be building up the ranking of this box set, which is really poorly ranked because I never do anything to promote it. I just have it because I can put it in KU, and some people prefer to read that way, but not many. And I don't do anything to sell it, but I could take this as a chance to sell it and try different things. So it's everything is all the stars are aligning. Manifesting.
Yes. And it's a lot of stuff. Yeah, a lot of stuff that we've been talking about. A lot of stuff you've been thinking about where all marketing leads to, and the different opportunities that come from putting yourself out there. So it's all tying in together.
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
So exciting. And I will keep everyone updated on the progress. So it is later this month. Yes. So I will let you guys know.
I really can't wait. But as you said, you're going to put in an X meets Y in the back of your book. So that's what we're talking about today. X meets Y marketing. What does this mean to you, and how do you use it? So I don't know when I started thinking about this. I think because I know I want to make this new series that I'm putting out this year, I want to find a way to, even just on a mental level, make a bigger push with it. I want to invest more mentally. I want to put myself out there more. I also want to invest more financially and feel confident about that investment. And as I was kind of thinking about that and considering that, I was looking at the books that are both trad and indie published, where people feel like they're making a really big marketing push, they've invested money and energy in that. And often those ones that you see around that stick in your head a lot are using that X meets Y structure. And it can be, and it's really just 2 comp titles. So that's what we mean by X meets Y, is 2 comp titles. And the one that we talked about most when we got together and chatted about this was a book that came out last year, maybe even the year before now. Yes.
That was Gilmore Girls Meets Practical Magic, which, whatever that book's about, I want to read it. Without question. That could be a book in a genre that I would never normally touch, and I want to read that book because I have such a like deep in my belly love for both of those things, and to think about them both together, it's like whatever I'm addicted to, that is it.
Yes.
And I really felt like that kind of tied in with the idea of what I want to have with this new series. I want to have a series that people love. So I was really drawn to it. And I think X Meets Y, it's in all genres, but you don't tend to see it a huge amount in cozy mysteries. There is someone that I've seen that does it, and she does a really good one. I think she does Downton Abbey meets Miss Fisher Mysteries, which is great because you know exactly what they're going to be. And it's like, oh, fun,
Yes.
charming, some humour, a bit of maybe upstairs, downstairsy things. And it's like, yeah, I know what it's going to be. I love it. Again, click. So that's kind of like my introduction to it. What about you, Sam? What's your kind of introduction to the topic?
I originally I was a bit hesitant about X Meets Y marketing because I think when I was before I'd like self-publish, or actually kind of I had already started self-publishing when I did this, but when I was approaching agents and sending out emails to agents to try and get representation, they always want comp titles for books, and I always struggled with comp titles for my books. And then when people started doing this X Meets Y, which I believe is kind of like, it's something that spilled over from the movie industry, because I think that it was really like an elevator pitch thing that people did for movies, and that people have adopted for books, which, and it is comp titles, but it's kind of a bit more, it's more all encompassing. It's less like book comps, and it's like it can be any media now, which is, for me, it's better. Because I don't just read books. You know, I watch so many TV shows and so many films. Originally I was a little bit hesitant because it felt like I was just falling into the comp titles thing again, and I was like, I'm really bad at this. I hate it. And then I saw this one, the Gilmore Girls and Practical Magic, and I instantly pre-ordered it. It was an instant click, and I instantly pre-ordered. I thought, that sounds great. Click, buy. And I thought, well, if that works on me, then I'm missing a trick. I'm just being like really pig-headed for the sake of me finding it difficult in the past. So
did it feel pig-headed? Because I think the thing about X Meets Y is it feels like a really big. It feels like a big promise. So like Practical Magic meets Gilmore Girls. That feels like I'm saying I'm as good as Practical Magic and Gilmore Girls, and I've combined them. Yeah. Aren't I a genius?
Yeah. It was like a bit of pig-headedness, and I knew that I was, because I'm just like one of those people. I hate to admit that someone's doing something better than me. But also maybe a little bit tied in with the like, I'm not good enough, like you say, like I'm not good enough to say that any of my work is anything like these other people, like, or anything like this film or this TV show. Like, my story's not that great. So it is, you really do have to throw yourself wholeheartedly into this idea of, your idea is the best. It's a mixture of these things. Wow, isn't this exciting? And I think that's a really difficult part of marketing. But it's something that I have been leaning into a lot more recently. And then I started marketing my books as X Meets Y. My young adult book, The Deathless, which I use as My Girl meets something else, which I can't remember right now. So, like, I can't remember what the other thing was. Oh, My Girl meets Never Have I Ever, which is a young adult book. So, like, and that's kind of okay. I don't think it's perfect, but for me, it does encapsulate kind of, it does give me the vibes that I want, but I don't think it's very exciting. So I kind of still push that, but I'm trying to come up with something else. And then my werewolf book, I always say, is like Charmed meets Teen Wolf. Again, I think that that's kind of okay, but I don't think that's the best thing that I can do. I guess what I'll say is, I don't want to kind of just go on to the next one, because the next one's like my absolute bread and butter golden ticket of an X Meets Y. But those other books, I did X Meets Y after the fact. So I wrote something, and then I came up with the X Meets Y. But I think that that's a mistake. And I think that's going to be something that we talk about over the next few weeks when we talk about writing as marketing, marketing as writing. Is this idea that you kind of do the work, you do your writing, you write your story and everything, and then you only think about marketing at the end. But really, marketing at the start works so much better. So, just to take over the conversation, the book that I started writing in November and have just finished last week or the week before, I came up with my X meets Y before I started writing it. And
it's so good. Really, and like, I think, don't share it, but like,
so good.
It's as good as Gilmore Girls and Practical Magic. Like, as soon as I heard it, I was like,
it is.
Whatever it is, I want to read that. Any words that belong in that category, I want to read it.
Yeah, it's by far the best thing that I've ever come up with, and it really helped me with writing. So now that I started doing it and I've started thinking about it, I think that it's a really fun way to get into marketing your books when everything else often feels like a little bit cringeworthy. I feel like X meets Y is actually the least cringeworthy of all. And I know that other people don't like it. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's so annoying." But for me, it's.
I mean, I think about it is it's really hard.
To be. Yeah, it's very. I do think that as well. I think people don't realize how hard it is. They just take it for granted. Like, oh, these people saying it's like this and this. Like,
they're just slapping on these two names.
It's taken us so long to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think starting before you start writing the book is key. And I think I've talked about this a few times. Like, my writing process is I start writing only the first 10,000 words, then I take a break. So then I can kind of go back and see, is the tone right? Is it setting up enough, of the right themes, of the right pacing, whatever it is, with a kind of clearer mind after a few weeks break. And in that break, so I just done my 10,000 words. I was like, okay, I feel really good about it. I think like it came out really easily. It was really fun. It's got the right level of eccentricity in. I really like it. And then you're like, oh, great. What's it about? And like my what's it about was just like this really long, like, oh, it's kind of about this person, or like before they start, but wait, let me also tell you, like, and it was just, it felt like I was trying to tell you a story, and I was drunk, and so all the elements, I know all the elements are great, like they are fully from my butter list. So we'll talk about butter next week. All the elements in this book are from my butter list. They are things that I love reading about them. I love writing about them. You get that feeling thinking about this. Like, when you read a book and like you sort of squiggle down in your chair as soon as you've read something. Everything in this book is giving that like squiggle down your chair feeling. But I could not articulate it to save my life. And then when we were trying to talk about it, so I'm going to hold up the bit of paper that we I wrote down as we were talking about it. And you can see like it just went through many, many, many stages where you're like, okay, so you, in your convoluted explanation of this series, you talked about this. So if I think of comp titles for this, so one thing we talked about was like Black Sheep or Small Town or Bookshop. Yeah, okay, so let's think about Black Sheep stories. Is it a bit like Ryan Reynolds' The Proposal? And I was like, oh, no, it's not like that. In fact, we couldn't find any other good Black Sheep stories that kind of fit even vaguely with it. And then we're like, okay, think about Small Town then. What about something like Only Murders in the Building, or maybe like Agatha Raisin, a popular cozy story? I was like, yeah, but I sort of feel like it's not quite the same tonally at all. So can I use that as a comp? And we just went through lots of different things that are in the book. And then we got through a list of like actual like concepts that are in the book. So things like Small Town, Bookshop, like, almost like tropes that are in the book. I tried to find comps for those and they just didn't really cut it. And we were trying to figure out like, why are they not cutting it when we could find good comps, but they weren't giving you that like, oh my God, I absolutely have to have that. And what we realized is that what you need is some sort of emotional intersection. So Gilmore Girls and Practical Magic, they are similar in some ways, right? In that like they appeal to the exact same audience, right? They're really like elder millennial female, growth juice. Like this is in my veins.
Yeah.
But the places where they're similar, like they're about family bonds, they're about like powerful women, kind of overcoming adversity. They're about like really joie de vivre. Like they have so many emotional overlaps that are not really about like they're not both about magic. They're not both about Small Town in the same way. They're not both about like class even. There's things they don't have in common, but the place where they do intersect,
or really romance.
Yeah. But yeah, the place where they do intersect has got a very strong emotional overlap. So we realized we were looking for two things where it doesn't necessarily matter how close either one of those things is to your story, but the place where they intersect must be the place where your story is emotionally. And that is really hard to find, we discovered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, like it took us hours
Yeah.
Googling.
Yeah, Googling other stories. We Googled like other X meets Y lists and trying to figure out like what works and what doesn't work in X meets Y lists. And it is really about, does the place of emotional intersection match the place of your story's emotional like resonance?
Yes.
And Practical Magic and Gilmore Girls, you can feel in your body the connection that both those two things have.
100%.
And it's like, it's such a joy and excitement that I want to read the story that gives me that feeling. If there's one thing that brings those two things together, 100% I'm reading that. And I have just started it. So I just started that book. It's great. Like, I've only read the first chapter, but it really does have that feeling. And I know I haven't read the rest of it, and I've seen very mixed reviews online. And I think part of the mixed reviews are coming from maybe X meets Y to some extent missells it. I don't know. But the beginning part of it, it's so enjoyable. And I haven't got a copy with me, but just for anyone, I'll put it in the show notes, but it's The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic.
Yes.
Am I getting the title right? Okay.
By Brianne Randall. Yeah.
Yeah. But if I heard that X meets Y, instantly I'm going to go to it. And I always read the sample before I buy anything. But I would do the sample, I think, love it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The charm and like the sass that I'm looking for, that's right there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have to think about, really consciously think about for your story that like, what's the intersection of the X meets Y?
No, because I stumbled on my X meets Y accidentally. Just from a series of unfortunate events. I had wanted to write a particular story, and I started writing that story, and I got like 10,000, 20,000 words in, probably 20,000 words in, and I thought, and this is the first time I've ever done this, I stopped writing it, because usually I'll just follow through. Like, I had a beat sheet, and I'd had this whole story planned. And it wasn't a bad story, it just wasn't my story, what I was writing. It wasn't young adult. It was a little bit more of an adult mystery. But it had the elements that I wanted, but I just didn't know. I was just missing, like, the fire. So
the fire. That is such a good word for X meets Y. It's the fire, like the rubbing together of these two sticks. What is that fire?
Yes. So that's what I was missing. So I had one part of it, which I retained. So I knew that was like an element that I wanted, but I needed the the juicier story. I needed to find the thing that was going to bring it to life. So I put it to one side, and I had been thinking about it for a while. It was always in the back of my mind, and literally, like, I was thinking about it for the whole of the year until I came back round to NaNoWriMo, because it was a NaNoWriMo project. And it was only when I started to come back round to NaNoWriMo and do my whole plan, and I thought, I want to give this story another go, but I need to figure out what the fire is. And I was watching a film, which is a film that most people will watch around October time.
And I think that's the important thing about X meets Y, is it has to be something popular. It has to have a very quick, instant emotional resonance.
Yes. Yeah, and it's difficult in some respects, because you don't want to go too big, but you also don't want to be really niche. So it really is something that you just need to kind of think about a lot for a long time, I think, is just to find those things. But my two things have been established things for a while, so they're not particularly new, but they are constantly popular, and both have very vivid, just very vivid lives out on their own. So yeah, this other part of my X meets Y, I was watching the film and I thought, oh, this has everything that I love about young adult stories. The relationships, the tension, like the fact that it wasn't a romance, because I don't really like I like having romance as a little bit of a subplot, but I don't like writing romance. And neither of these stories had really any romance in them. And I just had like an epiphany. And
Epiphany.
Epiphany. And I thought, if I mix these things together, this is going to be outstanding. And
I think
wrote
the
it.
really good thing about those two things is, as soon as you say them, they belong together, and it's like, it's ludicrous that there's been no crossover before.
That's what I thought. So I'm really panicking about the fact that, because like when you have an idea somewhere in the world, somebody has the same idea at the same time, like the story of my life. And I'm really, really scared that at some point soon on Instagram, I'm going to see somebody marketing this book. I'm like terrified, because this isn't going to come out till next year. So yeah, I'm very worried. But I know that my story is very good. It needs a lot of editing, but I know that I found the right X meets Y, and I found the fire for the story. And that's what helped me write it. So I couldn't write it without knowing beforehand what it was.
Yeah, because that is the fire is, I think, a good way to put it, like the emotional core of something. Yeah, I mean, that must feel petrifying, having that perfect X meets Y. Obviously, like both these things, these are the X and the Y, they have been around for a long time, and no one has done this before. Also, I think even if somebody else does do it, they might not hit big with it. There might be that they're a flash in the pan that doesn't go anywhere, so fine. And then also, you could have two people in the same X meets Y. I'm sure I've seen another Practical Magic meets Gilmore Girls around.
I was about to say, yes, it does happen. It happens every time. And even the book Big Magic, which we both read.
I was just thinking about that. She says, like, ideas, like they'll transfer to somebody else if you don't use them.
But even if you do use them, they still sometimes will hopscotch around just to see. So I love the idea of ideas as being these ethereal beings that are just like, I'm just going to spread myself around and see what happens. So I feel like this idea is teasing me. Because she obviously she wrote a book, and then she didn't do anything with it, and then she made a friend with another writer who had written the same book, basically. And I'm just thinking, I hope my idea hasn't been flirting with other people.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a good idea that it's one of those things that feels impossible that no one's done it before. But they haven't. I think, so when we had our X meets Y conversation, it was really useful to talk to someone who's got a great X meets Y, because I felt like, I can 100% see the benefit of it. And we could talk through how how it's positively impacting your writing, and how it just makes it so easy to think about marketing it, because it is a one-click buy. Like, as soon as you put those two things together, you're like, I have to have this. And I'm so frustrated that I haven't read it already. This book that you haven't even finished or published. I cannot wait. Yeah. I mean, big pressure in the best possible way. So, like, as soon as you mention this to anybody, they will be adoring of it. But we were talking about with the, like, some people are not going to feel happy about it, because to some people, the X and the Y, they meet in a slightly different place than you're making your promise. You're assuming that everyone has the same X and Y intersection as you do, and probably most people do, because I don't know. Hopefully they do. I don't know why they probably would. Hopefully they do. But they won't always. And if they don't, and they feel misled by your X meets Y, you're going to get some negative reviews. But I think if getting the X meets Y right 10x's your sales, say a small portion of them don't like it, fine. You've 9 extra sales.
I could not. Yeah, I've got to that point. I don't care. I'd rather people gave me 1 star than not review at all. Just any reviews appreciated.
That's just more eyes on the rest of your books.
Yes. 100%. I don't, because I read so many reviews of books that I love, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. This is like the best book I've read in months, and people are like, I hate this book. Blah, blah.
So and often the reviews are like things that you would love anyway.
Yes. So yeah, I don't pay attention to reviews. I know that everyone's going to love this story. The only problem that you have with X meets Y is, it's not even a problem, but this, talking about reviews, you can never satisfy everybody. It's either too much of X, not enough Y, or not enough X, too much Y. So I think it's just more, it's just such a nice thing to have when you're marketing, because marketing is already the biggest hurdle. Like writing, editing, nothing. Like, easy. Marketing.
I also
the
think
worst part.
you could you could think of your own X makes Y and not use it. But for me, it was so helpful just to think about it. And now I'm going back to rewriting this story. The X and the Y, that I've picked. So I have picked an X and Y for this story. I'll talk a little bit about it. I think I'm not going to give it away because I'm both on the fence about it and also think it feels like a secret. It feels like a precious secret.
Yeah.
But both of them captured something that I felt was really essential emotionally about my story. And when I went back to rewrite the first chapter, I really wanted to make sure I had A, both of those things, and B, the intersection of them. And my new first chapter is just like bristling with more resonance, more fire, much, much more than the original one was. The original one was a really good cozy mystery first chapter. It had some lovely food, some like squabbly best friends. It had some like funny jokes and some slight like quirkiness. My new one has got secrets, conflicts, some backstory. It's got beautiful descriptions. It's got some great food. It's got some great like setting, but there is this tension of things you don't know, and not thrillery tension, but just like there is a core to what's like coming that you feel more led down towards a path. Or I'm hoping so. I feel like my problem with my X meets Y is they are not very genre specific. So we look for ages for ones that would feel more genre specific because the cozy genre is it is really specific, and it is people who are, it's a bit like people who are looking for quote unquote like clean and wholesome romance. They never want to see anything that they would consider spicy. It would be, it's a absolute no-go. And the same for a cozy mystery. There are some sort of boundary pushers, but they're definitely people who've already made a name for themselves doing that. In a general cozy mystery, no one's expecting people to be swearing. No one's expecting blood on the floor, or someone to be murdered in front of them. And it's hard to find an X meets Y that doesn't have that in. So I'm really struggling to figure out, like, do I need my X and Y to both be cozy to make it really clear that my book is cozy? And I've got an X that's very cozy, quite cozy, and a Y that is 100% not. A Y that I think everyone's seen or is very aware of, and it does capture something very emotionally specific to the story. And when you cross it with the X, the point of intersect is cozy. But so much of the two books is off to the side, doesn't intersect, and especially the Y is 100% not cozy, that it makes me feel concerned that I will be putting people off by using this. And I can still think about other things. I now know what from the Y I want to capture. And there's other stories that I'm sure contain something like this. So I'm still mulling it, but it really helped me write it to find the X meets Y. So even if I don't use the X and the Y like type of advertising, I don't say, read this book for X and Y, I've still really distilled them in my head. Like, it helped me distill the story, so that if someone now asks me what the story is about, I wouldn't say, oh, it's about this person, and before the story starts, I would not have to do that. I could think it's about these two things, even without necessarily saying the X and the Y. I know conceptually what the X and conceptually what the Y is. But I thought what might be helpful is to think about some of the X and Ys we looked at when we were looking at this story, because what we found that you have to find X's and Y's that are emotionally resonant. They cannot be just conceptually similar. And just generally, some stories they've not got like a lingering common emotional resonance that like the entire audience would see. So I put some at the top of the page that I thought, I really like them. They don't fit to this story at all, but they have such a clear emotional resonance. If I saw them in an X and Y, I would know what it was. And two that I think are really everyone would know and would love is like Grace and Frankie. Like, instantly what you're getting if someone said Grace and Frankie meets Y, and the other one was Amelie. Again, you can have such a clear emotional connection to Amelie that instantly if someone crossed something with Amelie, perfect. And so a lot of the ones that we looked at when we were looking for X and Y were things that were like, I know what it's about, but I don't know how it feels. So things like Midsummer Murders, which is a really popular crime series. It's great. It's a crime series. You would think it fits really well, but I just don't have a strong emotional like, oh yeah. Like I don't think, oh, I go to that when I want to feel. It feels just like, warm and cozy, which is like, okay, that's true general. So ones that we kind of thought of, which I might use, but I don't feel so necessarily protective of them. We had Erin Brockovich meets Murder, She Wrote, which I think it captures like someone sleuthing and someone a bit sassier, but doing it in a cozy way. But I think that is two things that are maybe slightly too similar, just sort of sleuthy women. But then we had a slightly better one, If Jessica Fletcher Landed in Mystic Pizza, which I think both those have got emotional resonance, but there's something about the slight jarring of them as well that sparks something in your mind. The fact that like they don't go so naturally together like Erin Brockovich and Murder, She Wrote. They're not both doing the exact same thing, but you can have a feeling from both of them that sort of it's almost like a cognitive dissonance. Like your brain is trying hard to find what the connection is. You know there's a connection there. It's not quite obvious, and that work your brain is doing feels exciting. So that's the kind of the distance the X meets Y needs to have, but also the overlap, which actually it turned out was really hard to figure out.
Yeah, because that's the thing as well. You can do the ones where like Gilmore Girls, Practical Magic, where it's an instantaneous. You don't need to know the specifics. You can kind of assume like it's a very good X meets Y, but the ones that make you think can work, but could also work against you.
Yeah,
because people have had to think, I don't really
like it's X-Files meets Jaws.
I get that.
What is that? What's X-Files meets Jaws?
Oh,
like aliens underwater, or
I think you would say that was Lake Placid.
But I think like there's no feeling intersection between those two things.
There's no feeling. Yes, yeah.
So your brain just can't find one intersection point. You can find multiple kind of bits of overlap, but you can't find like I can find the intersection point. Whereas something like If Jessica Fletcher Landed in Mystic Pizza, small town nosiness, sort of cute quaintness, but like a bit of sass. I can see that point. I can find the overlap point quite quickly. And I could if I had like something cross with Amelie. But like X-Files meets Amelie, I could not. I'm kind of intrigued what that would be actually.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like any X meets Y does make me think.
Yeah,
like the kombucha girl meme. Like, no, maybe.
But I think
that's how I think about
sort of
everyone that I read. Like,
yeah. So it's hard to figure out, and I think I have started writing my story without feeling 100% confident my X meets Y is the one for advertising, but it is 100% the one for writing. And
yes,
it might be that as I'm writing, I can write in a way that is close enough to the X and Y that I can add some sort of qualifier. So such as, I think I've got a qualifier editor at the moment, which is like in a quaint English village, which does, I think, do something to modify the fact that the Y is quite gritty compared to a cozy mystery. And I want to feel really comfortable with it, though. I want to feel like it gives you that instant bye. This will be the story for you, because I think it will be, and I really want to convey that. So I'm excited about X meets Y. I think it is useful no matter what you do with it, but you should be doing it before you write, not after you've written the book.
100%. I'm actually considering starting another spreadsheet, because why not?
Sure.
Of all like TV shows, books, and films that I can think of, which I have like an emotional tie to, because I feel like if I just have a bucket to dip into, or a list to have a look at and think, like this next story that I'm writing, could I like crystallize this idea better by using these? So I'm thinking of starting myself a little list of all of my favourite things. Basically, like
I wish I had that when I was trying to think of when I have it as me, because like as soon as you try and do this activity, you think, I've never seen a film in my life. I've never read a book in my life.
I know. Nothing. Yes, that's how I always felt doing comp things when I was writing to agents. I'm like, I don't know I don't know any books now.
Yeah, and the internet is so bad at it, because when you try and Google like small town films, small town stories, it turns up nothing. No one's ever written a small town book, or no one's ever made a small town film.
I know, every young adult thing that I look for, it's like, do you mean Twilight? I'm like, no. No, I'm never going to mean... I mean, I love Twilight, but I'm never going to mean Twilight. Oh, maybe I.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Maybe I will mean Twilight one day, but not right now.
Yeah. Twilight
It's
meets
always
Emily.
Twilight.
What would that be?
You know?
I know. It's both a blessing and a curse to have this list, I think, when you make the spreadsheet. Because you could spend your whole life just thinking, yeah, Grace and Frankie meets New Girl.
X-Files.
I want all these books.
I do. I'm happily buy. Everyone listening, if you're looking for a story, pick any of these.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Yeah. So I think it feels fun trying to do X meets Y. It can feel frustrating, but I think doing it really, even if you do it and fail, I think it's worth spending some time thinking about it. I found it very useful. I feel like I haven't got no one's going to have as good a one as you ever have. You've won the universe of X meets Y.
I can't wait. I cannot wait to tell people about it. I can't wait to start working on it.
Yeah. If you are murdered in a mysterious plot, it's me. I've murdered you to do your X meets Y. That's going to be obvious to everybody because I know it.
That's
it's secret.
Fine. You can you edit it.
Oh my goodness! I do edit this podcast. Okay. All right. Well, watch yourself.
Yeah. Oh god.
But yeah, absolutely love it. I did not expect to love X meets Y because it feels so reductive. But I'm a full-on convert. I'm now a convert to manifesting and X meets Y.
Yeah.
All the
it's
magic.
Great. What a time to be alive.
Okay, on that note, on the time to be alive. So for next week's topic, we're continuing our series on writing as marketing with an episode on butter. Mm-hmm. Tell us about butter. What do you mean by butter? What are your thoughts you have on that already?
So butter are the elements in books that make you just melt with excitement. All the stuff that makes you go, oh yes, I've got to read this. I love this. So I am new to butter. As a vegan, I'm doing vegan butter. So my vegan butter. So I have got a butter list that I'm excited to talk about. So yeah, all of the fun things that you know that you love to read in books. I'm looking forward to talking about the quantity of butter needed in the recipe that is a story, because I think that is in itself a challenge. But yeah, I can't wait to talk about it because it's something that I definitely have been thinking about for future books. I'm not writing anything right now, so I can't really implement it, but it's like X meets Y. It's a great thing to have before you start.
Yeah. So I think butter we talked about recently in the book that I can never quite remember the title of because it's just not quite the title stuck in my head. It is something like 7-figure fantasy.
Yes, I know, and I will read. I'm going to read that.
I've got a copy. I've read it more than once. Yeah. I think the problem is that the concept of butter sticks in your head so you're like, the butter book. Everyone knows there's a butter book.
Yeah.
So yes, I'll put it in the show notes. Read it before next week if you can. Anybody and everybody. It is phenomenal. You see some complaints about online saying like, it doesn't really tell you anything. It just can repeat the same ideas. Like it does. That idea is gold. That idea is all you need. So yeah, butter it's a much better way of articulating the way that I said, the things that make you like squiggle down in your chair. Is that?
Yes.
It's like what will make you want to buy something. So I have also got a butter list and mine is things like Christmas because I love Christmas, bookshops, defying social expectations, like a really wide range of things. What I struggle with is figuring out how to take those ideas and put them in books enough. It is the quantity. How much is like, how do I know I've put it in a way that will feel buttery? I don't know.
Yes.
And I am thinking about it constantly. I thought when my new book, what I'll do is like, I'll write a list of butter things per chapter. And I haven't done that because the idea of it actually feels stupid when I came to do it. I was like, what am I going to do? Have one whole chapter about Christmas? No, it should be like, it's stirred through. You're not putting it on like butter on toast. You're stirring it through like in a cake. And so it's how to figure out like, if you're at the end of the cake, it's too late to put the butter in. Because the butter is an ingredient, the sugar in the beginning. Oh gosh, I do love a torch analogy. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Expect more of this next week. I will develop some more.
It's going to be crazy.
Yes, some more butter-based ideas. Yeah, a buttery biscuit base of ideas
Yes.
will come your way next week.
We're going to grease that pan.
Oh, I need some puns before next week, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is so useful to think about, and I think this is such a good topic to think about because in my head the idea is floating around, and I think by talking about it, I can articulate what I want to do in my book. So from a purely selfish point of view, I'm right at the stage where I need to add some more butter, and I would like to figure out exactly how, when, how much. Yeah, how I can become a butter chef. And we will master that next lesson. Next week.
Next lesson.
It will be like a lesson to me. I'm so looking forward to it.
Yes, it will be to me.
Hopefully you are too. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Yes, goodbye.
You've been listening to Pen to Paycheck Authors.
Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to learn how to write your way to financial success.